Hey, it's Naftali. Thanks so much for joining me on the Humans Working Book Marathon. Today's topic is productivity. So it's a topic that's talked about all the time in business, right? And I want to talk about it a little bit differently today. So it turns out that, this is going to seem obvious, but maybe you haven't thought about it this way. Productivity is simply getting the desired results divided by the amount of effort you had to put in to get those results, right? So if you got a huge result from a little effort, super productive, right? If you got a little result from a ton of effort, not very productive. Pretty straightforward. But the reason that most people don't think about it this way is because most people try to break productivity down into measurable units, right? We have things like KPIs, key productivity indicators. And usually those are just tasks that can be measured, but they're often not really even remotely indicative of the results that we want. You know, I worked at a company where one of the KPIs was how many customers you signed on. Now we could sign on almost an infinite amount of customers, but because of the nature of our business, we were selling online advertising essentially. And if we had customers from certain parts of the world, that business, because those their ads were flagged for spam so often, that having those customers actually really hurt our business. But the employees, the salespeople, were incentivized just by the number of new customers they brought on board. And those customers were really easy to get. So of course, what did they do? They went out and they got a ton of these customers, and their numbers went up. They were rewarded with bonuses. But what happened? The company's numbers went down. You know, our revenue, our profit, our reliability, our spam score, everything else, so through the toilet. It was horrible. You know, another example might be a customer service organization who, you know, they measure the amount of time that everybody's on the phone. Now, what results do they want? Well, of course, they want the most customers, the best customers, a huge, long-time customer value. They want, you know, raving fans. But what do? It looks like, oh, if we have a small, we just keep our customers on the phone for a really short amount of time when they call the customer service number, we can get through, 1,000 customers in a day. And, each customer only costs us 25 cents to service. Whoo, isn't that great? And on a spreadsheet, it looks pretty cool. But the problem is that if somebody calls who's upset and you not only don't answer their problem, you make them more upset by getting them off the phone as quickly as you can, do you think that's going to lead to them coming back to being a raving fan, to having the huge long-term customer value? No, of course not. We have programmers that are rewarded by how many bugs they fix, or how many features they do, or how many lines of code they write. Do you think that leads to the highest quality software? No, of course not. And what happens when you have software that has low quality? You spend your whole time with customer service, with fixing bugs, with downtime, with things that just sink your business, right? So we're never, why, I don't know why companies are not thinking about things in a long-term kind of way. Now, this what I'm talking about here is a little bit less about what I've talked about, a little bit different than what I've talked about in other chapters around, kind of your experiencing, your thinking. But in a way, it's not. Because I believe that the reason that this happens so often is because of this sort of copycat mentality, right? Other companies do it this way. We have to have a way to measure things. If we don't have a way to measure things, they'll never get better. We have to be able to look at a spreadsheet. We have to be able to aggregate, the performance of many people up into one spreadsheet. And people just start believing this BS. They just start believing things that aren't true. And it looks like, oh, well, they're doing it and they're successful, so that must be why they're successful, because probably they'd be 10 times more successful if they actually thought a little bit. If you think about a company like Zappos, who did the opposite, instead of having their customer service people get off the phone as quickly as possible, what'd they do? They told them, stay on the phone with people until they're really happy. And what happens? their sales numbers, their commitment numbers, their long-term customer value numbers went through the roof. Amazon bought them. So, I don't know, which would you rather, like Amazon buying you or like having like really low customer service cost? Don't be silly.